where a Soweto woman has pleaded guilty to killing and burying her grandmother in their backyard in 2019. Nomaswazi Tshabalala is appearing before the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court today on charges of fraud, murder, theft and defeating the ends of justice. The 31-year-old allegedly killed and burnt her grandmother's remains so she could steal her SASSA grant and savings. We've got eNCA's Manqoba Mchunu, who's covering the story for us and joins us this afternoon. Manqoba, this is a horrific account of events as to the death of the grandmother of the lady who is currently in court at the moment. Maybe just furnish us with some of today's court proceedings and what is set to happen going forward.
Well, certainly, Rupua, you can imagine the trauma that the family is going through at this particular point, having, of course, to listen to some of those gruesome details as to how their very own relative had killed their grandmother. And of course, those are some of the details that we heard in court today. She has pleaded guilty to all the charges. That includes murder as well as defeating the ends of justice. It includes theft as well as perjury. Those are some of the charges that she had been facing. Of course, the biggest one, of course, is the fraud one as well, where she also defrauded some of the accounts that belonged to the 61-year-old granny. We do know that she had gone as far as claiming or withdrawing some of her SASSA grant money as well as some money from her Nedbank account. So this all, of course, culminated to a trial that was supposed to start here today. And she did ultimately went into a plea bargain where she did plead guilty to all the charges. And we do understand, of course, that at this particular point, she also will be facing a sentencing when this court resumes on the 14th of October. But just to get a sense from the NPA about what went on in court today, I'm joined by Pleaded just to give us their reaction as the NPA. Pindi, let's firstly start with what happened in court today. You were expecting, of course, to call witnesses as the state. You were expecting that you are going to lead those witnesses as to what really happened in this matter. But of course, there was a plea bargain that she went into. What's your reaction to that as a state?
Well, we welcome today's conviction and also appreciate the fact that the accused decided not to waste our time as the state in that she pleaded guilty to all the charges and thereafter tendered a plea explanation.
Pindi, you were, of course, saying that as a state you're not going to accept this plea bargain in its entirety. There were certain sections that you as a state were not happy about. Tell us more about that.
As the state, we raised the issue of premeditation. So the bone of contention was whether or not the murder of the elderly woman was a premeditated one or not. And as the state, we held the view that the accused before court planned the murder and had ample time to reconsider her decision after she has knocked the elderly woman with a calabash and she fell. Though she was unconscious, but she was still alive. But even then, she proceeded to kill her. In her own plea explanation, she further states that she had the intention to kill her. So hence, as the state, we then argued that the murder was premeditated and the court found as such.
And this is crucial, Pindi, when it comes to sentencing, whether or not the murder was premeditated. As a state, what is it that you'll be calling for when it comes to sentencing?
Indeed, it becomes an important factor when considering the suitable sentence that the court can impose. So since the court has found her guilty of premeditated murder, the minimum prescribed sentence that is applicable is that of life imprisonment. And as the state, we will be arguing for a sentence of life imprisonment, and we will state our reasons on the 7th of October when the matter is back in court.
Given the fact that she has pleaded guilty, do you think that she's shown some elements of remorse? Will you be considering this as a state?
Well, the court is bound to consider the fact that she pleaded guilty. But as I've said, we will then stretch our arguments as the state as to why we believe that life imprisonment is still applicable in this case.
Okay, thank you very much for speaking to us, Pleaded from the NPA, just giving us a sense of what they believe as the state about this particular developments that happened here in court. We did speak to the family. They are, of course, still battling to come to terms with what really happened to their loved one. And, some of the family members who are telling me that, they don't even know how to feel when it comes to this. They don't know, whether to feel remorse or whether to feel any sort of, anger when it comes to how, this all unfolded. So it is quite a difficult time for the family who are still, of course, trying to process what happened, in the past 3 years. But they're saying that they're hoping that they will find closure once that sentence is handed down.
Another difficulty for them is that she too is a family member. So these are truly tough times for them all. That is Manqoba Mchunu, and he'll continue to keep us posted on details around that horrifying case of a grandmother being murdered and burnt by her own granddaughter. She pleading guilty in a court earlier on today.